Mercy Hospital had been abandoned for decades. Built in the 1920s in a small Ohio town, it once served hundreds of patients. But by the 1980s, it had closed its doors, leaving behind a building steeped in rumors. Stories of patients disappearing, unexplained deaths, and strange cries that locals claimed echoed through the empty halls. I had always been curious. Stories of hauntings often felt exaggerated, until I found myself standing in front of the decaying hospital gates on a chilly October evening. The autumn wind whispered through the iron fences, and the setting sun cast long shadows over broken windows. Walking closer, I could feel the history of the place pressing in. Memories of those who had lived, and those who had died within these walls. The hospital was larger than I had imagined. Its brick walls were cracked, paint peeling away like old scars. Broken glass littered the front steps. I paused at the threshold, a shiver running down my spine. Inside, the air smelled damp and cold. I flicked on my flashlight, illuminating the long corridor ahead. Each step echoed, magnified by the empty space. The sound was unsettling, almost like whispers following me. I set up my camera near the main hall. At first, everything seemed normal, but then a faint creak came from the second floor. A slow, deliberate sound, as if someone or something was pacing above me. As I explored the corridors, the unease grew. I began to notice shadows that didn't belong to anything in the room. A door slightly ajar would close by itself. Sometimes objects seemed to move when I wasn't looking. Then came the first unmistakable encounter. A soft, almost human-like whisper floating just behind me. I froze, holding my breath, convinced someone was playing a trick. But I was alone. The sound repeated, faint and urgent, echoing through the hallways. My flashlight flickered. I could feel a presence, silent, patient, watching. My rational mind struggled, but deep down I knew something was not right. The operating wing was the heart of the hospital's history. Old surgical rooms, rusty tables, and shattered instruments lay scattered. The air felt heavier here, thick with the energy of past trauma. As I walked down the hall, I could hear faint metallic clinks, tools hitting the floor. But no one was there. The temperature dropped suddenly, my breath fogging in the dim light. Shadows flickered along the walls. I could almost hear the distant hum of machines, the low moan of patients in agony. Every instinct screamed to leave, but I couldn't. I had to see it all. The children's ward was the most chilling. Small beds lined the room, untouched for decades. Broken toys scattered across the floor. A rocking horse swayed gently, though there was no breeze. Then I heard it. A soft, high-pitched laughter, faint but unmistakable. The sound seemed to circle me, weaving through the empty beds. Cold spots formed around me, freezing my hands as I reached for the door. Footsteps echoed behind me, though when I turned, nothing was there. The children's laughter continued, taunting, playful, yet somehow sorrowful. Before visiting, I had spoken to former staff members and locals. Nurses whispered about patients who had vanished, sudden deaths that left no record, and sightings of figures wandering the halls. A former nurse told me, "I saw a man in a hospital gown walking down the corridor. He just disappeared into the wall." As I recounted these stories in the hospital itself, I felt the air grow heavier. Whispers seemed to respond, almost conversational. It was no longer just a story. It was alive around me. As darkness enveloped the hospital, The main hall felt endless. Shadows twisted along the walls. Doors slammed suddenly, echoing like thunder. My camera captured glimpses of fleeting figures, silhouette, that vanished when I approached. A faint crying echoed through the hall. Each sound, each movement made my heart race. I wasn't just exploring anymore, I was being observed. The basement was the final threshold. Here the morgue remained intact, drawers still in place. The cold was unbearable, as if the walls themselves were alive. I could hear faint screams, almost imperceptible, emanating from the walls. Shadows danced across the room. One drawer creaked open slowly, and then slammed shut. I stepped back, nearly panicking. This was beyond explanation. This was something ancient, something tied to the very history of the hospital. I fled the hospital as dawn approached, leaving the building behind. The air outside felt warm, normal, yet even days later I could hear faint echoes of laughter, the soft footfalls of unseen figures, and whispers of the past. Mercy Hospital remains abandoned, but it is far from empty. The stories are true, and those who dare enter may feel the whispers themselves.